In this video I will explain to you how earning money as a validator works, how I did my own setup, how much money you can actually make by validating on the blockchain, and why this all feels unfair for normal people. Let's start with the first question: why being a validator is attractive. So as the crypto world becomes more and more mainstream, people see young millionaires who bought some meme coins back in the day and now just enjoy their lives. But let's be serious here for a minute. Many people who bet on the next pump cycle lost serious money. Either they were scammed or bought some coins to a ridiculous high price. At the end of the day, simply because they had no clue what they were actually doing. But being a validator is usually easy to set up and comes with far lower risks. On top of that, as a validator you get daily, weekly or monthly rewards simply because you help to secure the chain, the blockchain. Let me explain to you the philosophy behind this. From my point of view, it's very important that you can understand this, as it has a massive effect on the conclusion at the end of this video. If you take a look at the traditional financial system, it's a centralized approach. So there's always a middleman involved which manages your money, whether it's a bank, some institutions and so on. The massive downside of this approach is they control the rules, they control the infrastructure, plus they take a cut. But in our daily lives we rarely think about our dependency from the banking system as we got used to it. But the blockchain technology works differently, challenging that norm we got used to. Instead of one central authority like in the banking system, you have independent validators from around the world. And their job is simple: they verify transactions, make sure that no one cheats. If you want to run your own validator, you can set that up pretty easy. And think of it like this: as a validator, you are not investing on a coin, you are just helping that the infrastructure runs. And many projects claim that starting a validator is easy to set up, is welcomed on their chain, and they're inviting millions of people from around the world to join their network. Because at the end of the day, the more people join the chain, the more it gets decentralized, right? And if you remember just a moment ago, where I said breaking free from the banking system because you have one central authority, the blockchain approach is a very romantic thought, right? Let's dive deeper and take a look on the Bitcoin chain. On Bitcoin, having power on the chain comes from computing power. If someone manages to control more than half of that power, it basically owns the chain. Because basically then they can decide what gets written on the chain. That's called proof of work. On newer chains like Ethereum, Polkadot and Kusama, power comes from stake. And that's called proof of stake. In this concept, stake means locking your money away on the chain so that the validator can run jobs for you. At the end of the day, the more you stake, the more influence you have on the chain regarding validations. But nevertheless, the ideal case for both approaches is that you have individual validators from around the world that are independent from each other. Only then you can have a truly decentralized system that's not controlled by anyone. And now that you've understood how validators work, let me explain to you how I did my technical setup to run my own validator. First things first, we need to choose a chain we want to operate our validator on. If we look at Bitcoin, they have no validators as explained, they have so-called miners. And nowadays running a Bitcoin miner from home and competing against these large industries and large companies that are in the field also is like buying a lottery ticket. That's why I focused on proof of stake chains like Ethereum. And Ethereum was also out of the question because I anticipated already that it was too crowded. And as of today, you need around as little as 32 Ethereum, which is around $100,000. So that's out the question as well. If you ask yourself at the moment, isn't that a form of gatekeeping as well? Yes, it surely is. And to be quite honest with you here, almost every chain has some sort of implementation that keeps the regular people out. Let me explain. And most projects in the crypto world explain this like, if you have too many validators from around the world which has low stakes, then they would probably scam the chain. But in my opinion, gatekeeping like Ethereum does, with their minimum stake, gives again the power to the rich. And at the end of the day, they have so much money, they can probably run multiple validators at a time. And now ask yourself, why should you trust any greedy company with your own money when your first intention was to break free from the banking system? So I did a little bit more research and found that there were some chains that didn't require a minimum stake. They assess each cycle the validators with the most stake and choose the top 1000, for example, to put them into the active validator list. This is like a form of gatekeeping, let's call it gatekeeping light. I thought it's the best between the worst, so let's dive deeper. I chose the Kusama chain for my experiment, let me explain why. And maybe a quick tip from my side. When I choose something, whether it's an investment decision in stocks or crypto projects, I first look up the founders. Because all that talk in their white papers on their homepage doesn't matter. I want to understand who are the founders, what are their connections, and how do they think to operate the chain. I found that Gavin Wood is the founder of Kusama and Polkadot. But now it gets interesting, he was also the co-founder of Ethereum, he was the chief technical officer. He was the one who proposed the programming language Solidity for smart contracts on chain. And additionally, just on the side, he published the white paper for the Ethereum virtual machine. After leaving Ethereum in 2016, he founded his own company called Parity Technologies. Polkadot and Kusama are far less popular in the mainstream than Ethereum, so I thought let's dive deeper into that, as the founder Gavin Wood checked all the marks regarding connections in the field and having a network. After checking the vita and the references of Gavin Wood, I thought Polkadot and Kusama are worth a more intensive look. For you to understand, Polkadot and Kusama are nearly the same infrastructure. If I had to describe it on a very surface layer, I would say Polkadot is more conservative and it has a higher security, whilst Kusama is a playground for developers. The newest features go live there first, it's like a testnet for Polkadot. And from my point of view, this is gold for developers because they can unload their creativity, and that's how innovation happens. That's why I chose Kusama as the chain to go with. One of the easiest ways to participate as a validator is to run a virtual private server that has to run 24/7 in the internet. This will be the brain of your validator that does all the computing work for you. But before you go now and pick any virtual private server, I can just recommend check on the technical specifications on that chain that you want to become a validator on. After you picked your virtual private server, in my case I installed the Kusama software on it. That's actually how your server gets connected to the Kusama network. At this point your node starts syncing with the blockchain, downloading the full history and communicating with other nodes in the network. So you're not validating yet, but you are part of the network. After that's done, you generate the so-called validator keys. These keys are what identify you as a validator and allows you to create blocks and participate in consensus. This is one of the most important steps because those keys control rewards and penalties. If you lose or expose them, you lose control over your validator. Next, you have to create a validator account on chain and link it to your node. This is the exact point where your validator becomes visible to the network. You're basically saying, this node is mine and I'm ready to participate. Next comes staking. You bond some Kusama to your validator. Let me explain. Bonding here means you put your own Kusama to your validator and it gets locked away. That's also referred to many communities as having a skin in the game. Because at the end of the day, you're locking away your own money, and that's the idea behind this proof of stake. As you can see over here, I've done all the necessary steps, so my validator is on chain. We named it Lovefully Collectum Validator. As you can see, I've bonded a small amount of Kusama to test everything out. And currently I'm in the waiting set. I'm not in the active set, so I get rewards as a validator. In the meantime, I played around with some functions, I even filled out some personal details, linked our YouTube channel over there. But still I'm in the waiting set for more than 2 days. Let's look why. On Kusama there is no fixed minimum to become a validator, right? But the downside is you actually need enough Kusama to join the active validator set. Until that happens, your node is in the waiting set. And now you might ask yourself, well, how much Kusama do I need to get into the active set, right? And to have just enough stake to join the active validator set, you either have to put up your own Kusama, or you will get some nominations from so-called nominators that also have some bonded Kusama that put up your stake. Many people get confused here. They think if you have a lot of nominations, you can get in the active set. That's not true. Let's say you have 10,000 nominations with 1 Kusama each, right? Then you have in total 10,000 Kusamas. And another case is you have 1 nomination, but that account has 10,000 Kusama bonded. so you have also 10,000 Kusamas. So this means the amount of nominations is not important on chain, whether you make it into the active set. It's the amount of Kusamas that got locked away. If you ask yourself, how much do I need then to get selected into the active set? Currently, the last node that got selected as a validator in the active set had around 6,000 Kusamas, and Kusama stands at $7 at the moment, so it's around $42,000 that you need to get into the active set. And with my 0.5 Kusama, I will be stuck in the waiting set almost forever. But that's okay, I didn't set up my node to make money in the first place, I just wanted to help to secure the network. And because I liked the project and I had that motive to secure the network, I looked at the active validator set and analyzed some validators. Here's what I found. I found a validator called Zug Capital. Zug is a city in Switzerland. All of their validators, and they have a lot of validators, it's not only the validators you see over here, they have almost on every chain, Polkadot, Kusama, on every chain they have validators in the active set, in the waiting set, and on every wallet they nearly have 100 Kusama staked. That doesn't sound like much because I said you need 6,000 at least to join the active set, right? But most of their validators is backed by a lot of nominations, not in terms of amount as we discussed, in terms of locked away value. So each of these Zug Capital validators have more than 8,000 Kusamas in staking power. So they will be probably in the active set for a long time. But what got me confused was Zug Capital. Let's dive deeper into that. Well, as I said, it's an investment firm from Zug, Switzerland. It's interestingly the same location where Gavin Wood, the founder of Polkadot and Kusama, lives too. From my point of view, it's too speculative to say that there is a direct connection. But basically at the end of the day, from my point of view, either there is a connection or there is no connection, it doesn't matter. It's gatekeeping at its finest. First, they make it look like every validator can join because they have no minimum stake. But if you dig deeper, you see that the truth is far from that. It feels like a casino where the house always wins, but it also seems like that the players in the casino win here as well. But if you dig deeper, at the end of the day, you can assume that most of the players in the casino could be also casino workers. Whilst the normal guys like you and me just stand in line outside of the casino waiting to get their hands on as well and waiting to finally win something maybe too. And just for that waiting, you need to pay a fee just to stay in line. So you basically get where this video is going at the moment, right? And now let's do some simple math calculation to understand what a validator can earn. Especially if all the stake is your own. For example, let's assume you have 6,000 Kusama, like the least amount which the validator has in the active set. With your own 6,000 Kusama staked at 15% a year, you'd roughly make $900 a month. At $7 per Kusama, you stand at around $6,300 per year, which accounts to roughly $525 a month. And that just with one node. Now be honest. How many nodes would you own if you would be the founder of that chain? Or how many nodes would your friends own? Would you say 100 nodes? 1,000? 10,000? With 100 nodes alone, you make around $52,500 a month. Put that into perspective in terms of fairness, which these projects claim all the time. They buy the coins for ridiculous cheap prices at the start of the project themselves, which basically allows them to buy as many as they want. And then they are simply setting up the gatekeeping with the minimum amount of coins you need to join the active validator set. This is not only obvious with Polkadot or Kusama, it's almost with all projects in that space, and that's why altcoins fail. After setting up my own validator and digging much deeper into the matter, I can't recommend anyone to run a node, unless it's your or your friend's project, or you stumbled upon a project in a very early time. Because then you have the same concept. You buy the coins for cheap and stake them and earn high rewards. That's how they make passive income. I would love to hear your opinion on this. What's your take? Don't get me wrong, I love the blockchain decentralization idea in its core, but I didn't find any project that has mastered fairness, ethics, and true decentralization. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.